It's the summer of 1240, the start of the campaign game of Nevsky. 3 Teuton lords, Hermann in the middle, Yaroslav to the south, and in the north Knut and Abel, the Danish princes, face off against 2 Rus lords, in the north Yaroslav, and in the city of Pskov, Gavrilo. More will join, we'll find out how. In the Arts of War step, in the first Levy phase of the game, each side turns up 2 of their cards and plays it for the capability, that's the bottom half of the card. In each subsequent turn they will play it for the event. In this instance, the Teutons, who go first, turn up the Ballistari crossbowmen, which gives men-at-arms archery ability, particularly effective against armour. They assign this to Knut and Abel. It could have gone to Hermann, but Knut and Abel have 3 men-at-arms, and so this will be an effective card for them. The second card turned up is a no capability card and therefore has no effect. The Rus now get to turn up 2 cards as part of the Arts of War stage. They get the Smyrly Peasant Army, which provides a few pieces of cannon fodder that can be raised by any Rus lord later in the turn, as well as the Veliki Knyaz card, which is assigned to Gavrilo. This means that Gavrilo, whenever he takes the taxation action, is also able to add additional transport, as well as restoring any troops that he has lost in previous conflicts. It's a powerful seeming card that recreates the role played by the Grand Prince Yaroslav further off to the east. We now turn to the muster stage. Each lord in a friendly location is able to muster additional forces and capabilities equivalent to their lordship rating. Hermann has a lordship rating of 3, and he brings into play the William of Modena card. We shall see how that operates later on, but it can be used by any Rus lord. He also acquires an additional cart for himself and musters one of his vassals. You can see the piece on the left hand side of his player mat. That vassal brings with him an additional knight and man-at-arms. Now Knut and Abel get to muster. They too have a lordship of 3. They begin by bringing into play the Treaty of Stensby capability, which gives themselves and Heinrich, when he comes into play, an additional command action when we get to the command phase. They also bring into play 2 additional carts to give themselves some additional mobility on land. Yaroslav is the last Teuton lord to muster. He acquires an additional cart. Now the Rus get to muster. Gavrilo goes first. He plays the Black Sea trade capability, which will provide a regular stream of income for the Rus. He also gets for himself the Stone Kremlin ability, which will allow him to bolster the walls at Pskov in anticipation of the forthcoming Teutonic assault. He also musters one of his vassals, which brings an additional man-at-arms. Vladislav chooses for himself, as part of his muster, an additional cart and a boat. We now come to the call to arms stage of the Levy phase. It's worth looking at the calendar at the top of the map, which shows the turn we're in, turn 1, and in that turn those lords that are ready to be mustered. We can see in turn 1 there are 3 Teutons and 1 Rus who can be mustered, not that they necessarily all will be, simply that they are available. The flat rectangular markers show the point at which lords will leave the campaign, unless they can be paid money or loot to persuade them to stay on longer. If they aren't, then when their marker is in the same square as the current turn, they will pack up their bags and leave. The Teutons now get their call to arms action. They use the William of Modena capability for that. William of Modena, that's that purple playing piece, can do a number of things. What he's doing this time is going to one of the 4 bishoprics in Livonia and Estonia, in this instance Riga. That happens also to be one of the two home castles for Andreas von Felben, and William, once he's at a location, can automatically muster a lord, which he does in this instance. Andreas turns up, he selects two boats which he'll need to get along the river system that runs out of Riga. William of Dana returns to his card and can be utilised in future turns again. And now the last action of the Levy phase. The Rus get their turn. Their call to arms requires them to spend one of the victory points they've acquired. You can see that sitting in the Novgorod Vesh box down there on the right hand corner. That represents the political and financial influence of Novgorod's civic leadership. That can be spent in a number of ways. In this instance, to automatically muster a lord, which they do. They muster Domash, who turns up in Novgorod, his home location. It is a bit risky. It means that victory point is now gone. That removes some of the Rus flexibility, but they're desperate to get bodies on the map. Finally, you'll see a coin has appeared in the Novgorod Vesh box, which is the consequence of the Black Sea trade capability that was activated earlier on, and provides a coin every turn, so long as Novgorod or Lovat have not been conquered by the Teutons. And with that, the Levy phase of turn 1 ends.